A single act of obedience is often quiet and unseen, yet it can be powerful, transformative, and enduring. When obedience is born out of love for Jesus and a burden for souls, it becomes fruitful, multiplying far beyond what can be imagined. Like a seed that falls to the ground and dies, a single, faithful act can produce a harvest that yields kingdom dividends across the generations. Every one of us gathered here today is living evidence of such dividends, born from a single act of obedience that took place 162 years ago in 1864 when E.P. Hart and his wife stepped off a train in Ida, Michigan. The Harts could not have imagined all that God would accomplish through the surrender of their lives. They simply knew that Jesus had called them and sent them to reach people and to multiply churches across Michigan. What must have felt small at the time would shape countless lives across the globe for generations to come.
When the Harts arrived in Michigan, God had already prepared partners to join them in the work. Henry L. Jones, John Pluce, Ellsworth Leonardson, L.T. Fink, John Ellison, C.S. Gitchell, and William Bishop. These leaders, like the Harts, had given their yes to Jesus, and together, along with the Harts, began a fresh movement in the towns and villages of southern Michigan. E.P. Hart practiced an apostolic ministry. He traveled throughout Michigan, preaching revival meetings, organizing classes and societies, and forming new communities of faith. The first congregation was established in Ida, Michigan in 1865, and is today known as the Crossroads Community Church, located in Ottawa Lake. After just 1 year, Hart reported to the Illinois Conference that Michigan already had 200 Free Methodist adherents. Soon, the work expanded beyond Michigan into Indiana and Ohio with similar results. In 2 short years, this rapid growth led to the formal organization of the Michigan Conference on June 22, 1866. The conference convened in Raisin Monroe County under the leadership of General Superintendent B.T. Roberts. That same year, the first Michigan Free Methodist Church building was constructed in the village of Sherwood and still stands today. In the following year, this little wood structure would host the second annual conference gathering in Michigan. In that same year, the societies at Sherwood and Coldwater became the first 2 Free Methodist churches in Michigan. What began with obedience was now becoming a movement.
During the first 2 decades, the Michigan Conference grew at an extraordinary pace. Pentecost bands traveled into new communities proclaiming the gospel. Revival meetings filled city parks. Souls were saved, disciples were formed, leaders deployed, and new churches were being built. As the work expanded, new regions of oversight became necessary. The Michigan Conference formed the North Michigan Conference in 1868, the Ohio Conference in 1876, the East Michigan Conference in 1884, and the Indiana Conference in 1887. What began through a simple act of obedience was now bearing incredible fruit across the upper Midwest. Back here in the southern part of our state, the oldest Free Methodist congregations in Michigan were being formed and flourishing in communities such as Raisonville, Lambertville, Huron, Forest, Ransom, Temperance, and Milan. Then westward into Jackson, Coldwater, Spring Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Watervliet. In the first 20 years, the Michigan Conference grew from 6 preachers and a handful of lay people to more than 900 members and 31 ministers, all tracing back to the pioneering faith of E.P. Hart.
A generation of lay and clergy leaders were sent forth with holy fire, their rallying cry, holiness unto the Lord, and their mission to spread scriptural holiness throughout the land. It was a movement marked by sacrificial faithfulness and a long obedience in the same direction. The fruit of their faithfulness remains visible today through local churches, many of which are among the oldest in the denomination. As of 2026, the Southern Michigan Conference has 18 congregations that have endured for more than a century, which is over half of our current churches. Detroit, Redford, Ferndale, and Leslie, 101 years. West Unity, Ohio, 104 years. Albion and Vicksburg, now Portage, 113 years. Ypsilanti, 122 years. Hillsdale, 134 years. Watervliet, 137 years. Kalamazoo, 138 years. The Arbor Church, 145 years. Battle Creek and Jackson, 148 years. Westland, 154 years. Milan, 155 years. Sherwood and Coldwater, 160 years. Ottawa Lake, 161 years. These churches, and many like them, have faithfully proclaimed Christ and made disciples, transforming lives and impacting communities across the years. This is not merely history. This is a living legacy that we have received.
As the Michigan Conference matured, the Lord began raising up women and men, calling them away to serve the nations on continents like Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Only heaven knows the full measure of the kingdom's advancement through these surrendered lives. Some left the comforts of home and never returned. Many experienced danger and disease at a time when medical resources and treatments were limited. Their obedience was costly, yet their sacrifice was not in vain. Because they answered the call of God with a yes, countless souls encountered Jesus. Because they were faithful, generations now worship Christ around the world. Faithful to the legacy they had received, they too practiced their single act of obedience and left a legacy that has impacted eternity. Although we cannot begin to measure the global impact of our work across these past 162 years, we know that heaven knows every story and has counted every ransomed soul.
The baton has been passed to us. We are the spiritual descendants of the Hart's apostolic ministry. We are the fruit of their single act of obedience. And now it's our turn. our turn to engage in a long obedience in the same direction, our turn to give our yes fully to Jesus, our turn to plant seeds whose harvest we may never see. Remembering our missional roots and looking forward in faith, may we affirm and seal in our hearts what Jesus is calling us to accomplish for His glory, and may we give our lives in service to the generations that are yet to be reached, so that they will in turn give thanks for the legacy we have left behind. May we be reignited with fresh passion, bound to deep consecration as we end the chapter entitled Southern Michigan, and with pen in hand, begin to write a new chapter through the Shoreline Conference of the Free Methodist Church. May the next generation become the fruit of our obedience, so that one day they too will give thanks for our single act of obedience in our time.